Why does sexual desire in women often fade after love begins? It's a question that has puzzled men for generations, leaving many confused about why the fire that burned so intensely in the beginning suddenly cools down once the relationship feels safe and stable. At first, everything seems effortless. The chemistry is electric, the passion is undeniable, and both partners feel consumed by attraction. But as time goes by, many men notice a shift. The woman who once couldn't keep her hands off them now seems distant, uninterested, or more focused on comfort than intimacy. To understand this change, we need to dig into the psychology and biology behind female desire, because the truth is that this dynamic is not random. It follows patterns deeply rooted in human nature. In the early stages of attraction, everything is new. Uncertainty fuels passion. The brain is flooded with dopamine, adrenaline, and other neurochemicals that make every touch feel addictive. For women especially, the thrill of mystery and excitement of pursuit heighten desire. It's not just about physical attraction. It's about the emotional roller coaster, the question of does he really want me? Or where's this going? That tension keeps desire alive. But once the love becomes secure, when the questions are answered and the relationship feels predictable, that same spark often weakens. Love brings stability, safety, and comfort, things women value deeply. But paradoxically, those same qualities can dampen the very intensity that fueled the initial desire. This doesn't mean women stop caring, or that they lose interest in their partner entirely. Instead, their priorities shift. Love often satisfies emotional needs so well that the biological urgency of sexual attraction naturally declines. The body and brain are no longer in a state of heightened alert. In fact, evolutionary psychology suggests that for women, desire is tied not only to love, but also to excitement, novelty, and even a touch of uncertainty. When those elements disappear, passion can fade. That's why so many couples fall into the roommate phase, where love is strong but intimacy feels less frequent, almost like it belongs to a different time. Another factor is a difference in how men and women experience desire. Men are often driven by physical attraction and can maintain sexual interest even in stable, long-term settings. Women, however, are more influenced by context. Stress, emotional disconnection, routine, and lack of variety can all suppress their libido. What feels like love and security to a man might, ironically, feel like monotony to a woman. And monotony is the enemy of desire. So what can be done? The answer isn't to avoid love or to chase endless novelty. Instead, it's about learning to balance security with excitement. Couples who thrive long-term understand that passion needs to be nurtured intentionally. Spontaneity, playfulness, and even small doses of unpredictability help reignite desire. Men who stop courting their partner once the relationship is secured often see desire fade fastest. But those who continue to create emotional tension, surprise, and excitement give women the chance to feel that spark again. In the end, love doesn't have to kill desire. It changes it, reshapes it, and challenges couples to grow. The key is recognizing that passion requires more than comfort. It requires curiosity, effort, and the courage to never let the fire go out. Now, let's take a closer look at how this plays out in real relationships. Imagine a couple in the early days of dating. Every meeting feels like an event. They dress their best, they flirt, they surprise each other. The anticipation alone creates tension. Even the act of waiting for a text back can trigger excitement. In this phase, desire feels effortless because it's being fueled by novelty and uncertainty. But once the relationship becomes official and love enters the picture, many of these rituals fade. The man stops putting as much thought into dates. The woman no longer feels the thrill of being pursued. Instead, the dynamic shifts into routine, and routine, while comfortable, does not naturally produce passion. One of the biggest misconceptions men have is assuming that love alone is enough to maintain desire. Love is a foundation, yes, but desire is not automatic. It must be cultivated. Women are emotional beings, and when they feel like the mystery is gone, desire often takes a backseat. Think about it. How many couples do you know who seem deeply connected emotionally, but admit they rarely have sex? That's the difference between love and desire. One provides stability. The other requires intentional effort. Another crucial element is how women perceive their partner over time. Desire is closely tied to admiration. In the beginning, a woman is drawn to a man's confidence, his drive, his sense of adventure. But if over time she begins to see him as passive, predictable, or uninspiring, her attraction naturally wanes. This doesn't mean he has to be perfect. It means he has to remain dynamic. Growth, ambition, and self respect keep a man interesting. When a woman sees that her partner is still chasing goals, improving himself, and refusing to settle into complacency, she sees the man she first admired, and that admiration fuels attraction. It's also worth noting the role of polarity in relationships. Masculine and feminine energy create tension, and that tension drives desire. In many couples, over time, the balance shifts. A man who once led with decisiveness may become overly accommodating, trying too hard to please. While his intentions are good, what often happens is that the polarity disappears. Instead of feeling drawn to his masculine presence, the woman begins to see him more as a friend or worse, as another source of emotional labor. This shift kills desire because the spark between masculine and feminine relies on contrast. But here's the good news. This dynamic can be reversed. Men who understand the psychology of desire can take steps to reignite passion. For example, reintroducing unpredictability into the relationship can make a massive difference. Planning surprise dates, trying new experiences together, or even small gestures like writing a note instead of sending a quick text can create a sense of novelty again. Desire thrives on the unexpected. Another strategy is maintaining personal independence. A man who invests in his hobbies, his fitness, and his ambitions doesn't just become more attractive. He reminds his partner the qualities that drew her to him in the first place. At its core, the decline of desire after love is not inevitable. It's a signal that the couple must adapt. That passion is not a byproduct of comfort, but a reward for effort. Those who ignore this truth drift into emotional companionship without intimacy. But those who embrace it create a relationship where love and desire coexist, feeding each other instead of working against each other. So, how can men actually apply this knowledge in their everyday relationships? The first step is to recognize that desire doesn't simply vanish. It shifts and it can be reawakened. Women rarely lose attraction overnight. Instead, it fades gradually as routine takes over and emotional stimulation declines. The key is to stay proactive. Think of desire as a fire. In the beginning, it blazes on its own, but if you stop adding fuel, eventually it burns out. The smart man keeps feeding it, not with desperation, but with consistent, intentional action. One of the most powerful ways to keep desire alive is through unpredictability. Routine makes life easier, but it kills passion. If every Friday is pizza and a movie, eventually it stops being exciting. Breaking that pattern with a surprise dinner, a weekend trip, or even something small like a spontaneous dance in the kitchen changes the atmosphere completely. For women, who are naturally more responsive to context than men, these gestures reignite the emotional spark that leads to physical desire. Another essential element is leadership. Women are drawn to men who know how to take initiative. In the early stages of dating, men usually plan the dates, take the lead, and set the tone. But once a relationship becomes stable, many fall into passivity, waiting for the woman to decide what to do. This shift may seem harmless, but it erodes polarity. When a man consistently steps into his role as a leader, making plans, taking decisions, and creating experiences, it reinforces his masculine energy, which in turn amplifies her feminine response. Confidence and self-respect also play a massive role. Women admire men who value themselves and continue to grow, even after commitment. A man who loses his ambition, neglects his appearance, or stops challenging himself sends a subtle message that he's no longer striving. That lack of drive translates into diminished attraction. On the other hand, when a man invests in his body, mind, and goals, he radiates the same energy that first captivated her. He becomes a source of inspiration, not stagnation. It's equally important to avoid overexposure. As strange as it may sound, too much closeness can actually weaken desire. Constant availability leaves no room for longing. In the early days, the distance between encounters created anticipation. To replicate that in a long-term relationship, a man must maintain his individuality. Time apart, whether through work, hobbies, or personal projects, create space, and in that space, desire grows. When partners reunite after being away, even briefly, the spark is room to breathe again. Communication is another tool, but not in the cliche sense of endless talks about feelings. Instead, it's about expressing desire directly. Many men fall into the trap of waiting for the perfect moment, but passion is built in the little signals: a touch on the back of the neck, a whisper in the ear, or a playful comment that breaks the routine. These actions remind a woman that she is desired, not just loved. Desire is not polite, it's raw and sometimes messy. When men embrace that energy, they reconnect with the primal side of attraction. The truth is, women want to feel both safe and excited. Love gives them safety, but desire gives them excitement. A man who learns how to balance the two creates a relationship that doesn't just survive, but thrives. It becomes a kind of bond where love and passion feed each other, where the comfort of commitment doesn't erase the thrill of attraction. That's the secret: to never let one replace the other, but instead to weave them together into something lasting. When we talk about desire fading after love, it's important to highlight the mistakes men unknowingly make that accelerate this process. Most of these behaviors come from good intentions, but they have unintended consequences that weaken attraction over time. By understanding them, men can avoid falling into the traps that turn passionate relationships into dull companionships. The first mistake is complacency. In the early stages of a relationship, men put in effort. They dress well, they stay in shape, they plan creative dates, and they communicate with confidence. But once the relationship feels secure, many let these habits slide. They assume, she loves me, so I don't need to try anymore. This mindset is deadly for desire. Women don't fall in love with effortlessness. They fall in love with a version of you that worked to impress them. When that effort disappears, so does a big part of the attraction. The solution is simple: never stop courting her. Even years into a relationship, keep showing up as the man she first admired. The second mistake is overvalidation. Men often think that showering a woman with constant attention, compliments, and availability will make her feel desired. In reality, it often does the opposite. When validation is given too easily, it loses value. Desire is tied to scarcity. What is rare feels more exciting. If a man praises his partner every moment of the day or is always at her disposal, she doesn't feel the thrill of earning his attention. Instead, she feels suffocated. Balance is key. Appreciation should be genuine but not excessive. Another common mistake is conflict avoidance. Many men, out of fear of upsetting their partner, become overly agreeable. They say yes to everything, suppress their opinions, and prioritize peace over authenticity. While this might create harmony in the short term, it kills polarity. Women are drawn to men who stand firm, who challenge them respectfully, and who have their own perspective. A man who never disagrees eventually loses respect, and where respect fades, so does desire. Learning to embrace healthy conflict is essential. It keeps the dynamic alive and prevents the relationship from slipping into monotony. The fourth mistake is neglecting masculine energy. Masculine energy is about direction, purpose, and strength. When a man loses his sense of mission and makes the relationship his only focus, he unconsciously weakens the very energy that attracted her. Women admire men who have drive beyond the relationship, ambitions, passions, and goals that give their life meaning. When that disappears, she may still love him, but she won't feel the same pull toward him. The antidote is to keep chasing personal growth and never let go of your identity outside the relationship. Lastly, there's the mistake of routine intimacy. Sex becomes predictable. Same time, same place, same rhythm. While stability is comforting, passion thrives on variety. When intimacy becomes mechanical, women disengage emotionally. Men often misinterpret this withdrawal as rejection, when in reality it's a call for creativity. Breaking the pattern, whether through spontaneity, playfulness, or even small changes in environment, can reignite the flame. Avoiding these traps requires awareness and discipline, but the reward is immense. By staying committed to growth, maintaining polarity, and refusing to let routine take over, men create relationships where love and desire don't compete, but coexist. Women don't want a man who only provides safety. They want one who keeps them excited, curious, and inspired. And that's exactly what happens when these mistakes are replaced with conscious, intentional action. To understand how these principles work in real life, let's look at two fictional couples. Their experiences will show how desire can fade and how it can be revived depending on the choices they make. Take Daniel and Sophia. When they first met, Daniel was confident and spontaneous. He invited her to concerts, planned surprise trips, and always seemed to have a new story or challenge to share. Sophia admired his energy and the sense of adventure he brought into her life. But a year into the relationship, things began to change. Daniel became comfortable, too comfortable. He spent most evenings on the couch, scrolling on his phone. Date nights turned into takeout and TV shows. One night, Sophia finally said what she was feeling. Sophia, do you remember when you used to plan those surprise weekends? When was the last time we did something like that? Daniel, I don't know. We're already together. Do we really need to keep doing all that? Sophia, that's exactly the problem. I love you, but I miss how it felt in the beginning. Daniel didn't realize it, but his complacency had slowly killed the spark. Love was still there, but desire had slipped away. His mistake wasn't that he stopped loving Sophia. It was that he stopped feeding the fire that made her feel excited to be with him. Now, compare this to Lucas and Camila. They've been together for 3 years, and while the initial thrill has naturally calmed, Lucas makes a point to keep things interesting. He continues to pursue his personal passions. He's training for a marathon and working on a side business. He doesn't flood Camila with constant validation, but when he compliments her, it feels genuine and rare. And every so often, he breaks the routine. One Friday, Camila comes home expecting the usual dinner at home. Instead, Lucas greets her with a grin. Lucas, pack a bag. Just for one night. Camila, what? Where are we going? Lucas, not telling you. You'll find out when we get there. They end up spending the night in a cabin just outside the city, cooking together, laughing by the fire, and breaking free from the monotony of their week. That one small act of unpredictability is enough to recharge Camila's attraction. She feels the same spark she felt at the beginning, because Lucas never stopped being the man who leads, surprises, and inspires her. These two stories highlight the difference between letting love replace desire and allowing love to coexist with it. Daniel fell into the trap of thinking that commitment meant the end of effort, while Lucas understood that effort is not optional. It's what keeps passion alive. The lesson is simple. Women don't lose desire because they fall in love. They lose desire when a man they love stops being the version of himself that sparked it in the first place. Keeping that energy alive requires creativity, growth, and intentional action. But when those elements are present, desire can last for years.